The connection triangle: curiosity, compassion, and calm authority. This is a framework that'll help you move past scripts. So again, we've talked time and time again, there's a lot of downside to scripts. And if those scripts aren't infused with curiosity, compassion, and calm authority, they're never going to land. The kind of connection that makes people feel safe, seen, and ready to change, that's what you'll get from using the connection triangle. So here's the points I want you to remember. Curiosity invites in the story. Compassion holds the space, and calm authority leads them. You don't need to do it perfectly. What you do need to do is just show up with intention. This is your go-to. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, folks. Hey, welcome to another episode of the Marketing Your Practice podcast, the podcast where I have the pleasure of simplifying the marketing and the mindset so you, the chiropractor, can increase your income, your impact, and your enjoyment in practice too. Now, today we're going to dive into something that I truly believe can be one of the most important tools that we have, not just for practice growth, but for better care, better conversions, better outcomes. We're talking about the connection triangle. Now, this is one of those frameworks that's deceptively simple, but it's absolutely transformational when you use it, certainly when you use it properly. Now, whether you're greeting a brand new patient, whether you're navigating your way through a really tough progress review, or you simply just want to build stronger rapport with someone who's maybe a little bit guarded, this is your go-to. Now, inside the triangle, there are three core elements. There's curiosity, compassion, and calm authority. And when you begin to bring these together, something kind of magical happens. People soften, they trust, they engage, and what you say finally begins to land. So in this episode, I'm going to walk you through each element of the triangle. I'll give you some real world examples and some practical phrases that you can use right away, and some mindset shifts that'll help you change the way that you show up for every single patient. Now, this session isn't just theory, it's really applied neuroscience. I've been studying a lot of this stuff over the last 12 months. When you master this triangle, you don't just feel more connected, you'll start to see your attention go up, your objections go down, and your conversions that you'll have will be way more natural. So if you're someone who wants to stop feeling like you need to convince people and instead what you want to do is connect with people, okay, then stick with me throughout this episode. Now, before we dive into the connection triangle itself, there's some foundational ideas that we need to talk about, okay? And that is, what is real connection actually built upon? Because here's the truth. Most of us have never been taught how to do this. And what we think of that builds trust, okay, we think of things like having the right script. We think logic, that's where I fell down as well. Or even explaining the science. That's where I tend to kind of shift towards those two. Like if I logically explain to somebody and I share the science, then surely we should be able to build trust, okay? But they're only part of the equation. What really builds trust is not your words, it's not built on logic, it's not built on credentials, it's not your report of findings, it's how you make people feel. And that feeling happens long before you start explaining anything as well. Now, there was a piece of research that really changed the way that I thought all about this. It came from a psychologist named Dr. Nalini Ambady, okay? Now, what she did was fascinating. She played some audio recordings of doctors talking to their patients, but she stripped out all of the words. So there was no content, no context. It was just tone, rhythm, and emotional cues, okay? Then she asked people to rate just one thing. Would you trust this doctor? Now, here's where things get wild. Just 30 seconds of tone was enough for participants to accurately predict which of these doctors had been sued for malpractice. Now, let that sink in for a moment. They weren't rating clinical skills. They were responding to presence, tone, and energy. Now, what this tells us is really simple, but incredibly powerful. People feel you before they hear you. Long before you start talking about scans or posture or subluxation, they're picking up cues of your tone, your posture, your pacing, and these cues are either creating safety or they're triggering stress, okay? Now, that first impression, it lasts. Research shows that we make up our mind about someone in the first 10 seconds. Again, not based on logic, but based on presence. Okay. So if you've ever had one of those moments where you thought, I explained everything perfectly, why didn't it land? This is probably why. The words were right, but your energy wasn't safe. Okay. The nervous system wasn't regulated. Okay. And this is where the connection triangle comes in, and it's designed to fix this exact problem. It's how we make sure that our patients feel seen. It's how we make sure they feel heard and safe so that the rest of our communication actually sticks. So now that we understand that safety starts at the level of feeling, not facts, let's talk about how we can intentionally create that feeling. And this is where the connection triangle comes in. It's a simple but really powerful framework that helps you regulate the emotional tone of a conversation, especially in those first crucial minutes of a consultation, okay? Now, as we mentioned before, there's 3 elements of this triangle. I guess it wouldn't be a triangle if there weren't 3 elements to it, but there's curiosity, compassion, and calm authority. Now, when you lead with curiosity, you open the door for our patients to tell their story. And when you bring compassion, we make our patients feel seen and understood. And then when you hold calm authority, you anchor the space with confidence and clarity, okay? Now, each of these plays a very different role, but together they create a sense of safety. This is what we want to be doing in all of our consultations, but particularly in our initial consultation and our report of findings, okay? Because when people feel safe, they open up, they lean in, and they start to trust. And your world as a chiropractor changes immensely when you have bucket loads of trust. So what I want to do now is I want to walk you through each point of the triangle, what it looks like in practice, and how you can bring it to life in your conversations this week, tomorrow, today, depending on when you're listening to this as well. So let's start with the first element in this of the connection triangle, and this is curiosity. Now, I want you to think of curiosity as more than just asking questions, okay? It's a posture. It's an energy of I'm genuinely interested in you, and I want to understand what life looks like through your lens, okay? Curiosity is powerful because it invites people to share their story without pressure, okay? It removes the sense of interrogation and it replaces it with exploration, okay? Now, here's the key. Your patients will feel the difference between a question that's asked to tick a box and a question that's asked with genuine interest, okay? So what does curiosity sound like in practice? It might be just as simple as saying something like, that's interesting. Can you unpack that a little bit more for me? Or what do you think might be contributing to that? Or it might be something like, what's your sense of what's going on? Or can you give me an example of how that shows up most? Now, as I mentioned beforehand, it's not just the question, it's the way that we ask them, okay? The tone, it's leaning in, and an intent behind it to genuinely discover more. So these aren't just examples of clinical questions, they're human ones, okay? They invite depth without being intrusive. Now, when we ask from a place of curiosity, okay, we're not trying to just get the right answer. We're trying to understand the person. And in doing that, we signal something really, really powerful, okay? What we're signaling is you matter, your experience matters, and I see you, okay? Now, sometimes I'll use curiosity to gently dig a little bit deeper. A patient might say something like, I'm having difficulty sleeping. And I'll ask, that's interesting. What do you think is contributing to that? Or what's your sense of why that's showing up at the moment? Okay. I want to actually understand more. Now, the challenge is most of us, well, all of us have had to go through university. We have been trained in terms of clinically to ask questions. Our mind immediately starts going down a direction and we're acting more as a doctor and less as a human. And we need to learn out how do we actually meld this together as well. When we do this style of questioning builds rapport. And it also uncovers the context, okay? And this can completely shift your approach to care, okay? And more importantly, it starts to build trust. You're going to just hear me say trust 1,000 times throughout this episode because it's the basis of a practice that has impact, income, and enjoyment, okay? Curiosity without judgment says to our patients, you're in safe hands, okay? So as you head into your consults this week, I want you to tune in with the intention behind the questions. Are you trying to get the history or are you trying to get their story? We want story, okay? When you get curious, people open up, and when they open up, they start to connect, okay? All right, let's move to the second element of the connection triangle, and that is compassion. So if curiosity opens the door to their story, compassion is what has the person feel safe enough to walk through it, okay? Now, quick distinction here. This is an important one. I talk about this a lot with community influencer members in our trainings here. Compassion isn't the same as empathy. Empathy is when you feel what the other person feels. Compassion is when you see their struggle and you show up with them with care and desire to help without needing to jump in there with them, okay? Empathy is a feeling. Compassion is an action. Now, both of them are necessary and important parts of the human experience. I think what we need as chiropractors most of the time is compassion, okay? When we bring compassion into the room, we're saying, I care, I'm with you, and I'm here to help without judgment, okay? Imagine how that feels for a practice member to actually feel that inside of them, that you're there to help, and you're going to do it without judgment, okay? It's gold, and it's incredibly rare. Now, the beautiful thing is it doesn't have to be grand, and it can be as simple as, wow, that must be really frustrating. Or saying something like this, I'm really glad you shared that with me. Or even just a soft, present pause, not saying anything, but just holding the space for what they've said to actually land, okay? So many of us, especially in healthcare, are trained to fix. We're trained to jump in, to explain. But sometimes the most powerful thing we can do is to not talk. It's just be there, be present. I remember a patient once shared with me that she just lost someone really close to her. The practice was full. There was patients everywhere. All my tables were loaded as well. And I knew there was nothing that I could say or do that would take the pain away. I wasn't going to be able to solve it, so I didn't try. Instead, I just lowered myself down next to her so we were face to face. I gently placed my hand on her shoulder, looked her in the eye and said, "Thank you for telling me. I can only imagine how painful that must be." That was it. No fixing, no next step, just connection. And that's what compassion does. It meets people exactly where they are without trying to drag them to somewhere else. And ironically, that's what actually creates the movement. So here's your challenge. The next time a patient shares something emotional, resist the urge to fix it. Validate it, hold the space, and let your compassion be felt in your tone, in your pace, in your posture, okay? Because compassion creates safety, and safety is what allows transformation. It's safety that allows transformation to become possible. Now let's move on to the third point of the connection triangle, and that is calm authority, okay? Now this one's often really misunderstood because when we hear the word authority, we often think dominance, okay? Being in charge, taking control, but that's not what we're aiming for here. What we're talking about here is a regulated presence. Calm authority is that quiet confidence that says, you're in safe hands, I've got you. It's the energy of leadership, but without the pressure. Now, when you hold calm authority, we're not trying to impress, we're not trying to be overly polished, we're not trying to be charismatic, we're just being grounded, present, and we're doing this in a really steady type way, okay? Now that steadiness is absolutely everything because your patient's nervous system is watching your cues, okay? If you're rushed, if you're distracted, or if you're hyped up, they'll feel it. But if you're calm, centered, and connected, they'll mirror that also, okay? So here's some phrases of what calm authority might look like, okay? Slow your voice a little bit first, lower your tone so it can be felt as well. Your posture is relaxed, it's open, it's anchored. And when you speak, there's a clarity, okay? You might be saying something like this. Let me guide you through how today will work, okay? Or it could be saying, we're going to take this one step at a time, nothing rushed, nothing overwhelming. I'm going to ask you some questions first, and then we'll move into the physical assessment. Or it might be just telling them, here's what I'm seeing and here's what this tells me about your body, okay? These are all examples of calm authority. We're taking control of the situation. We're letting them know what is going to be happening next. Now, for someone that's anxious, your calmness is literally like oxygen, okay? It helps them downshift from that state of fight and flight, and it says to them, you don't need to hold it all together. I'm here. For somebody who's uncertain, your calm authority becomes a compass. It gently leads them from doubt and moves them towards decision. Now, that doesn't mean that you never show emotion. It just means that you stay regulated. You're not riding on their emotional waves. You're helping to settle them, okay? Now, here's a sign that you're doing it really well. They start to match you, okay? Their breathing slows, their posture softens, they make more eye contact, they stop guarding and they start engaging. That's when you know that they've shifted from protection into connection. So when you combine curiosity, compassion, and calm authority, you become somebody that your patients trust on a gut level, not because of your qualifications, but because of your presence. And in a profession like ours, where trust is everything, that presence is your biggest asset. All right. So now that we've explored those three pillars, curiosity, compassion, and calm authority, let's talk about how this actually plays out in the real world, okay? Because the power of the connection triangle isn't in just knowing it. You've got to make sure that you use it, okay? Moment to moment in your conversation. So think of it a little bit like this. When a new patient walks through the door, they're carrying something. Often it's uncertainty, maybe it's fear, it's skepticism. Hopefully, it's hope as well. But no matter how they show up, your job is the same. It's to move them from protection into connection. So here's the flow that I recommend, okay? Start with curiosity, okay? Begin by inviting their story, not with a clinical checklist, but with real human questions like I suggested before. What made you think that now is the best time to get this checked? Or how has this been impacting your life lately? When you ask these questions, okay, you open up the space. And then number 2, what we do is we hold the space for compassion. As they share, don't rush, don't problem solve, just acknowledge, okay? I find this one still tricky now. Saying things like, that must be really difficult. I'm really glad you shared that with me. Let them feel that you get it. Let them feel that you care. And then we can transition into calm authority. Once they've settled, once they feel seen and safe, you can then begin to gently guide them, okay? We do this with a slow voice, a steady tone. We can say things like, here's what I think is going on, and here's what we're going to do to approach it together, okay? This is where the trust deepens, and it's not because of what you said, it's how you held the space in the room, okay? So the connection flow, start with curiosity, move to connection, and then lead with calm authority. Now remember here, this is not a script, okay? I've given you several examples throughout this podcast, and if you just learn those examples and try to drop them in this, the connection triangle won't work for you, okay? This has to come from a sense of authenticity, okay? So it's not a script, but it is a sequence. When you practice it, it will become natural. It'll become literally a way of being. You'll find yourself asking more questions. You know, one of my favorite questions to ask, the simplest, is just tell me more. Tell me more about that, okay? In many cases, what we want to do when we're going back to our compassion, just mirror the words that they've told you. You know, if they're saying, things like, this is really difficult, sometimes we'll say back to them, it sounds like this is really difficult. And you might feel like you're stupid mirroring those words back, but if you do it with authenticity, if you do it with a real level of care and compassion there as well, it lands as well. Now, here's the best part. This isn't just something that you're going to use for the first few visits. This triangle works anywhere where there's tension, there's uncertainty, or there's emotion. So progress reviews, reactivation visits there too, team meetings with your staff, with your partner, with your kids, okay? Anytime the stakes feel high, this is your anchor, okay? So there it is. The connection triangle, curiosity, compassion, and calm authority. This is a framework that'll help you move past scripts, okay? So again, we've talked time and time again, there's a lot of downside to scripts, and if those scripts aren't infused with curiosity, compassion, and calm authority, they're never going to land as well, okay? The kind of connection that makes people feel safe, seen, and ready to change, that's what you'll get from using the connection triangle, okay? So here's the points I want you to remember. Curiosity invites in the story. Compassion holds the space, and calm authority leads them, okay? Now, you don't need to do it perfectly. What you do need to do is just show up with intention. Presence beats polish every time, okay? Be present rather than trying to be polished with it. Just be present, be authentically, okay? Have the intention behind it, okay? So here's your action steps for this week, or maybe this afternoon, or tomorrow as well. Pick one corner of that triangle to focus on. Turn this up on your next consult. Maybe you're going to practice asking better questions, or maybe you're going to begin to pause, listen deeper, or maybe you're going to slow your voice, ground your energy there, and start to show up with that calm authority, okay? Be still there. Let it ripple throughout that entire conversation, okay? Now, if this sparked something for you, I'd really love to hear how you're using the triangle. Maybe what was the aha moment for you, okay? You can shoot me a DM over at Instagram at Angus Pyke, or you can tag me in a story, or you can respond to an email that I send out with these episodes each and every week. I genuinely love to hear how this lands for you. And as always, thank you for all that you do. Keep saving lives. See you back here next week. Bye. If you've enjoyed listening to this podcast, you have to come and check out my Community Influencer Program. It's my monthly coaching program where we take all this material and I'll work with you to help you apply it, implement it, and systemize it. The Community Influencer Group Coaching Program is designed to help you increase your practice income, impact, and enjoyment. Join me over at anguspyke.com/join. That's anguspyke.com/join. I'd love to see you there.